A young man lived with his mother in a small, simple home in the countryside. Life was peaceful, and though they didn't have much, his mother made sure he never felt the burden of hardship. She took care of everything, cooking his meals, cleaning the house, and making sure he was always comfortable. No matter how tired he was after a long day working in the fields, he could always count on her to have a warm meal ready and a clean place to rest. She had raised him alone since his father passed away when he was very young. From the moment he was born, she had devoted her life to him. When he was a child, she fed him, bathed him, and stayed up all night whenever he was sick. As he grew older, she taught him right from wrong, guiding him with love and patience. She never asked for anything in return, only hoping that one day he would have a good life. The young man loved his mother deeply and respected her more than anyone. She was not just his parent, she was his protector, his teacher, and the one person in the world he could always rely on. But as the years passed, he began to feel that something was missing. He had reached the age where most men in his village were married and starting families of their own. His mother noticed this, and though she loved having him by her side, she knew that one day he would have to leave her to build a life with someone else. One day, the young man met a woman who caught his eye. She was beautiful, full of life, and unlike anyone he had ever known. He fell in love with her quickly and soon decided to marry her. His mother, though sad to see things change, was happy for him. She welcomed his new wife into their home with open arms, hoping they could all live together in harmony. At first, everything seemed perfect. The house was filled with laughter, and the young man felt lucky to have both his mother and his wife under one roof. His mother continued to cook and clean as she always had, and his wife helped whenever she could. They shared meals together, talked about their days, and for a while it felt as though nothing had changed. But as time went on, small tensions began to surface. His mother, out of habit, would correct his wife on how to do things, how to cook a dish properly, how to sweep the floor the right way, how to care for the home as she had done for so many years. To her, it was simple advice, the kind a mother gives a daughter. But to the young woman, it felt like constant criticism, like she was never good enough. At first, the young man didn't notice. He was busy with work and assumed that everything at home was fine. But little by little, the warmth in the house began to fade. The small corrections turned into arguments, and soon the two women were openly at odds with each other. His mother felt unappreciated, as though the home she had built was no longer hers. His wife felt unwelcome, as though she could never truly belong in the house. The young man, caught in the middle, was unaware that this growing tension would soon force him to make an impossible choice. At first, life in the house seemed peaceful. The young man believed that his mother and wife would grow to love each other, just as he loved them both. He was happy he had his mother, who had cared for him his whole life, and his beautiful new wife, whom he adored. But before long, tension began to build between the two women. At first, it was just small disagreements. His mother, having spent years taking care of the house, had her own way of doing things. She liked the dishes washed a certain way, the floors cleaned in a particular order, and the food cooked just as she had always made it. Whenever his wife did something differently, his mother would correct her. "No, dear, that's not how you cut the vegetables," she would say. Or, "You should stir the soup this way, not that way." His wife tried to be patient at first. She knew her mother-in-law meant well, but after a while the constant corrections started to wear on her. She began to feel like nothing she did was ever good enough. No matter how hard she tried, there was always something wrong, something to fix, something to improve. "Why does she always have to interfere?" she thought. "Why can't she just let me be?" The small corrections soon turned into arguments. His wife would roll her eyes when his mother spoke. His mother would sigh loudly whenever his wife did something differently than she preferred. The air in the house grew heavy with unspoken frustration. Every conversation between them carried tension. Every shared moment felt forced. One day, the young man came home from work, tired and hungry. He set his tools down and called out, "Wife, I'm home. Bring me some water. I want to wash up." There was no answer. He frowned, confused. His wife always greeted him when he returned. He called out again, "Wife, I'm hungry. Where's my dinner?" Still no response. Frustration bubbled inside him. He walked into the kitchen and found his wife sitting at the table, her face turned away, her eyes filled with tears. "What's the matter?" he asked. She wiped her face quickly and turned to him, her voice shaking with anger. "It's your mother," she said. "She hates me. She criticizes everything I do. She watches me all day, waiting for me to make a mistake just so she can scold me." Her voice broke as she added, "I can't live like this anymore." The young man was taken aback. "That's not true," he said hesitantly. "She's just old-fashioned. She means well." His wife shook her head. "No, she doesn't," she insisted. "She doesn't want me here. Every day she tells me how lazy I am, how useless I am. She asks why you ever married me. I've tried to be patient, but I can't do this anymore." She took a deep breath, her eyes fierce. "You have to choose. Either she leaves or I do. You can't have both of us." The young man felt his heart sink. He looked at his wife, the woman he had chosen, the woman he loved. But then he thought of his mother, the woman who had raised him, who had sacrificed everything for him. How could he possibly choose between them? The young man stood frozen, staring at his wife. Her words echoed in his mind, each one sharper than the last. "You have to choose. Either she leaves or I do. You can't have both of us." His heart pounded. He had never imagined being forced to make such a choice. His mother had always been there for him, from the moment he was born. She had sacrificed everything for him, raised him alone, and worked tirelessly to give him a good life. But now he had a wife, a young, beautiful woman whom he loved. He had promised to build a life with her, to stand by her side. And yet, here he was, standing in his own home, feeling as though he had been caught between two worlds. "Please," he said softly, reaching for her hand, "try to be patient. My mother is old. She means well. She just doesn't know how to let go." His wife pulled her hand away. "I've tried," she said bitterly. "I've tried so hard, but no matter what I do, it's never enough. She criticizes me, she insults me, she makes me feel like I don't belong in my own home. And you just stand there and let it happen." Her words stung. He had never thought of it that way. He had always assumed things would get better with time, that they would eventually find a way to live in harmony. But his wife was right. He had done nothing. He had watched, hoping the problem would resolve itself, and now it had come to this. He took a deep breath. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. His wife's eyes burned with intensity. "Send her away," she said. "This is our home now. She's old. She can live somewhere else. You can visit her if you want, but I won't live under the same roof as her any longer." The young man felt something tighten in his chest. Send his mother away? She had spent her entire life taking care of him, and now, when she was old and fragile, he was supposed to cast her aside? "I can't do that," he said firmly. "She has no one else. This is her home, too." His wife's face darkened. "Then you've made your choice," she said. "If you won't send her away, then I'll go. But before I do, I want you to think about this. Your mother is old. She won't be around forever. But I'm your wife. I'm young. We love each other. We could have a future together, a happy life, children, everything. But not if she stays. You can't have both of us." He looked at her, his mind racing. He loved her. He truly did. The thought of losing her made his stomach churn, and she was right. His mother was old. Her life was almost over. His wife, on the other hand, was young and full of life. She was his future. That night, he lay in bed, unable to sleep. The house was silent, but inside his mind, the argument replayed over and over again. His mother, his wife, two women, both important to him, both demanding a choice. By morning, he had made his decision. The young man woke up before the sun had fully risen, his mind heavy with the decision he had made. His wife's words still echoed in his head. "She's old. Her life isn't valuable anymore, but we have a future. We can be happy, just the two of us." At first, the idea had horrified him. Kill his mother? The woman who had given him life, who had sacrificed everything for him? It was unthinkable. But the more he thought about it, the more he convinced himself that his wife was right. His mother was old. She had lived her life. His wife was young, beautiful, and full of promise. They could start fresh, free from all the tension and conflict. And so, he decided. That morning, he approached his mother with a forced smile. "Mother," he said gently, "let's take a walk up the mountain today. It's been so long since we've gone together. The air is fresh up there. You'll love it." His mother, surprised but pleased, smiled back at him. "Oh, my son," she said warmly, "that sounds wonderful. I haven't been up the mountain in years." She moved slowly, her old body not as strong as it once was. Seeing her frail figure, a pang of guilt hit the young man's heart, but he quickly pushed it away. He couldn't hesitate now. When they reached the base of the mountain, his mother stopped to catch her breath. "It's a steep climb," she said with a chuckle. "I don't know if I have the strength for this anymore." "Don't worry, Mother," he said. "I'll carry you." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with love. "Oh, my dear boy, you're too kind." Without another word, he lifted her onto his back and began the climb. Step by step, they made their way up the rugged path. His mother sighed happily as she looked around. "This place brings back memories," she said softly. "When you were little, I used to bring you up here. You loved the trees, the birds, the wind in your hair. Do you remember?" He didn't answer. He just kept walking. The higher they climbed, the heavier she felt on his back. But it wasn't just her weight. It was the weight of his decision, pressing down on him, making each step harder than the last. His breath grew labored, his heart pounding. Still, he didn't stop. Finally, they reached the top. The cliffs stretched before them, steep and unforgiving. The wind howled, whipping through the trees. His mother looked out over the edge, then turned back to him. Her eyes were filled with something unexpected. Understanding. "I know why we're here," she said quietly. His body stiffened. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She reached out and touched his face, her fingers soft and warm. "I know, my son. I know what you're planning to do." His heart stopped. How could she know? Had he given himself away? She smiled sadly. "I understand. Your wife doesn't want me in the house anymore. You have to choose, and you chose her. It's all right." Tears burned at the back of his eyes. "Mother, She shook her head, silencing him. "I don't blame you," she said. "But listen to me, my dear. When you push me, hold on to that tree branch over there. The rocks are loose. You might slip." His breath caught in his throat. Even now, as she faced death, she was worried about him. His hands trembled. His legs felt weak. He had come here with a decision, convinced that it was the right one. But now, standing at the edge of the cliff, looking into his mother's loving eyes, he realized the truth. He couldn't do it. His wife had told him to choose. And now, he finally had. The young man stood at the edge of the cliff, his mother's gentle words still echoing in his mind. "When you push me, hold on to that tree branch. The rocks are loose. You might slip." Even now, knowing what he had planned to do, she was still thinking of him. She was still worried about his safety. He felt something inside him crack. He had come here with a decision, but now, standing before his mother, he realized how blind he had been. His wife had told him that his mother was old and useless, that her life had no value. But was that really true? Had she not given up everything for him? Had she not raised him alone, working tirelessly so that he could have a future? Had she not been the one who held him when he was scared, nursed him when he was sick, and taught him everything he knew about the world? And now, even in the face of death, she still loved him? A deep, crushing guilt wrapped around his heart. What had he been thinking? How could he have let his wife's words cloud his mind? His mother, sensing his hesitation, gave him a sad smile. "Go on, my son," she said softly. "I'm ready." The young man fell to his knees, his body shaking. He could not hold it in any longer. Tears streamed down his face as he grabbed his mother's hands. "Forgive me, Mother," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I was a fool." She cupped his face, wiping his tears with her frail hands. "My dear child," she said, "a mother's love never fades. No matter what you do, no matter how lost you may be, I will always love you." He pulled her close, sobbing into her shoulder. He had almost made the greatest mistake of his life, and yet she still forgave him. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Come, Mother," he said. "We're going home." She nodded, and together they made their way back down the mountain. With every step, the weight on his heart lifted. He had chosen, truly chosen, and for the first time in weeks he felt at peace. When they reached the house, his wife was waiting for him. She rushed to him eagerly. "Is it done?" she asked, her eyes gleaming. "Is she gone?" The young man looked at her, really looked at her. He had once loved her, but now all he could see was the cruelty in her heart. She had not asked if he was okay. She had not worried about whether he had struggled with the decision. All she cared about was that his mother was gone. His chest tightened with anger. How had he ever thought she loved him? "No," he said firmly. "She is not gone, but you are." His wife's face twisted in shock. "What?" "You asked me to choose," he said. "I have. And I choose my mother." Her shock turned to fury. "You fool," she spat. "You're throwing away your future." He shook his head. "No," he said, his voice steady. "I almost threw away the one person who truly loved me. I see that now." His wife glared at him, her face red with rage, but she knew there was no changing his mind. Without another word, she turned and stormed out of the house. The young man watched her go, but he felt no regret. Instead, he turned to his mother, his heart filled with gratitude. "Come inside, Mother," he said gently. "Let me take care of you, as you have always taken care of me." She smiled, her eyes glistening with tears, not of sadness, but of love. And from that day forward, the young man lived in peace, never forgetting the lesson he had almost learned too late. A mother's love is unconditional, and no one, no matter how beautiful or charming, could ever replace it. The young man stood in the doorway of his home, watching as his wife disappeared down the road, carrying only what she had brought with her. He felt no sorrow, no regret. There was only a strange sense of relief, as if a heavy weight had finally been lifted from his chest. For weeks, he had been blinded by love, by the idea that his happiness depended on his wife. He had convinced himself that his mother's life was no longer important, that she was merely an obstacle in his future. But in the moment when he had stood at the edge of that cliff, looking into his mother's eyes, he had seen the truth. His mother had never once asked him to choose. She had never demanded anything from him. She had spent her life giving, sacrificing, loving without condition or expectation. Even when she knew he had planned to kill her, her first instinct had been to protect him, to warn him about the loose rocks, to keep him from harm. That was the difference between a mother's love and the love of a selfish person. His wife had loved him, yes, but only when it was convenient, only when it benefited her. The moment he refused to do as she wanted, she turned on him, angry and unforgiving. But his mother? She had loved him at his worst. Even when he had betrayed her, she had looked at him with nothing but kindness. As the dust settled from the road where his wife had vanished, he turned back to his mother, who sat quietly on the wooden bench outside their home. Her face was lined with age, her hands worn from years of hard work. But to him, she had never looked more beautiful. He knelt before her, his voice thick with emotion. "Mother," he said softly, "I was a fool. I let myself believe that you didn't matter anymore, that your life had no value. I don't deserve your love. But if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, I promise you this, I will never, never forget what you have done for me." His mother smiled, her eyes full of warmth. She reached out and placed a hand on his cheek. "My son," she said, "a mother does not love her child because he is perfect. She loves him because he is hers." Tears welled in his eyes as he held her hands in his own. From that day forward, the young man dedicated himself to taking care of his mother, just as she had cared for him all his life. He worked hard in the fields, not just for himself, but to provide for her. He made sure she never went hungry, never felt lonely, and never again had to question her place in his life. Years passed, and as his mother grew older, he remained by her side, holding her hand just as she had held his when he was a child. And when the day finally came, when she closed her eyes for the last time, he wept, not out of guilt, but out of gratitude. He had been given a second chance, and he had used it well. A lesson for life. This story is not just about one man and his mother. It is about all of us. In life, we are often blinded by love, by ambition, by the desire for something new and exciting. We forget those who have sacrificed for us, who have given us everything without asking for anything in return. But when all else fades, when beauty and youth and fleeting desires disappear, what remains? The people who truly love us. A mother's love is selfless, pure, and unconditional. It is a love that asks for nothing, yet gives everything. So before you choose to abandon the people who raised you, who loved you when you had nothing to offer in return, remember this. You can always find another wife, but you will never find another mother.